When you have video in a project, you can do basic edits on it. And now that's nothing like you would do in Final Cut or Premiere, but you can basically sort of do a few little things to the video to line it up. In many cases, for example, you might, if you're working on a big project, you might get lots of different files sent to you, and they may not necessarily be edited together yet. So it's not that you would necessarily do your video editing in Cubase, you probably wouldn't, but it's useful to be able to just build a rough edit or make minor tweaks to the existing edit by, for example, chopping up the file and moving things around. So what you can see is, if I just expand this a little bit, a couple of the tools here will work on video files. Most of them won't. Obviously, you've got the pointer, which you can see you can move things around like that. Most of these don't have any effect because they're music specific. Some of them do work. The split tool, for example, works. As with sound and MIDI, this obeys the snap settings. So I could turn snapping off and I could get completely free cutting. Because video isn't the same as music in the sense that it's not regulated by a musical time base, you're much more likely to actually turn snapping off when you're working with editing video like this. I'm going to turn it back on just because it's easier to demonstrate, but I could take out these 2 seconds of video here by simply cutting like that, and then selecting the bit in the middle and deleting it. And then I could move this back, and what you would get is a clumsy cut. That's what it's going to look like. So that's pretty basic editing. You can pick up the left or right edges of any clip and make them shorter or longer without having to cut them. Again, this obeys the snap settings. If I was to import a file that had sound, none of these actually have sound, but I've got one that does. If I choose to import this video file, which I know has sound on it, you can see here it's telling me it has one audio stream. I can bring that in, and this time Cubase has detected the sound and it's actually split it off here. So if I play it back, there you go. Again, there's a frame mismatch because this is actually footage from my phone, whereas the other footage is pro footage from a camera. But nonetheless, it's managing to play it back quite nicely. Now, audio events you can control. So the audio that's come off a video clip can be edited really quite easily, like this. And you can do all sorts of things to this. So you can do whatever you would do to any recording. You can process it through plugins. You can, do fade-ins on it and stuff like that. You wouldn't probably be doing, again, a lot of film sound editing here, just because that's probably better reserved for a proper video editor. Nonetheless, you can work with sound much more flexibly than video, even sound that has come off a video file. I could mute that if I wanted to, like that. It's also possible to duplicate video clips if you like, in the same way that you would duplicate anything. So if I was to select a clip, well, I could cut it if I wanted to. I could also copy and paste it. So I could paste in a new version of that clip. But you'll notice that it's not copied the sound. If I wanted to copy the sound, I could do that as well, just holding the Alt key there, and they will remain in sync. That's quite useful for basically sort of creating different areas on the timeline where you might work with different treatments for the same clip. So you can duplicate a clip from one part to another, and you can compose different music or different arrangements underneath that clip.